Hello and welcome to my newest Vex video. I'm very excited to show you this one, as this is my perfected Vex build and is based around stacking a bunch of multipliers for ridiculous damage. This build is amazing for survivability, mobbing, and can one-shot any boss in the game. Fundamentally, this build is based on the Teen Witch comp, as it turns our lifesteal into shield leech and overshield leech as well as providing flat lifesteal, which we can turn into extra physical damage, which is a multiplicative bonus as well for ridiculous damage. And due to the shield leech, we can also use amp shields on every single shot, meaning every single shot will deal double damage. I'm very proud to show you this build to you. As always, the max roll link will be in the description, and I hope you enjoy the build as we get on to the skills. For the build's first 5 points, you've actually got a choice. You can either put 3 points in Guns and Needles and 2 points in Leeching Attunement, or 5 points into Leeching Attunement. Now, let's talk about the Guns and Needles path first. Guns and Needles provides Repkit restoration on a kill skill, and due to a kill in the blue tree, we will get this whenever our minions die. This is more so you can have your Repkit effect up consistently during mobbing, and is more for quality of life. If you go Leeching Attunement, you will get more damage as you can convert your lifesteal into extra physical damage. However, it does come with the requirement that you're using kinetic weapons. So really, it's up to you. However, I will say we don't need the extra damage. So in our case, we will put 2 points into Leeching Attunement and 3 points into Guns and Needles. Our next 5 points we will put into the Bloodletter. Now, I know Bleed Vex is very popular, however this isn't really a bleed build, and bleed really only just finishes enemies off rather than being our main source of damage. Yeah, while you don't have to take this, I would highly recommend you do, just due to the sheer power of this skill, as due to the damage formula, a lot of your damage bonuses won't actually be as effective as they seem due to the diminishing returns, with bleed being an exception because this is a separate multiplier, meaning this is an effective 120% increased damage as long as you always crit. But for our build, it's more of a 60 to 80% increase, which is massive. And while it is of course personal preference, if you don't take this, you will be hurting your build a lot. For our next 5 points, we'll put them into target prescience. This gives our guns 15% increased crit chance. This is very nice for mobbing and bossing, but it is particularly nice on guns that don't naturally crit, such as the death laser you see in the video, the Oscar Mike. Giving crit chance to non-crit weapons is huge because the crit damage multiplier doubles your damage, and doubling the damage makes bosses get deleted is of course very good. We will also be putting 5 points into material components. This gives us increased kinetic damage and kinetic status damage. This is very good for bleeds, but also for another skill we'll be picking up later, Bloodshot, which converts all our damage into kinetic damage. This means this is an effective 35% increase for all our guns, as well as a 20% increase for our status. And while I haven't tested this out, I am pretty sure this double dips with bleed. Our next 5 points will be Ars Arcana. This does two things. It will increase our Spectres damage once we pick them up, and will also increase our Bloodshot and bleed damage. This is more so just to get down the tree as well, because the other alternative, Grave Vitality, isn't very good. However, that doesn't mean it's a bad skill, just a less useful skill. We will be putting 5 points into Essence Leech for increased lifesteal. This of course helps our survivability and our shield leech, but it's more for our next skill, being Blood is Power, which will put 3 points in. This will turn 300% of our lifesteal into bonus kinetic damage with guns. This is very good because this isn't increased damage, this adds on to your guns. So even if you've got a shock weapon, a fire weapon, a radiation weapon, you will gain this bonus kinetic damage, and it is a multiplicative source of damage. Due to the fact that our class mod gives us leech and encourages us to stack leech, this is really good. We will also be putting 5 points into Bloodshot. While you only need 1 point, we choose to put 5 because of our specializations increasing our health. This is good for the one shot, but to be honest, it's not even needed as we deal a lot of overkill damage anyway. For our last 11 points, we'll be putting them into the blue tree. This is because spectres are very good for this build, as they can stack bonuses such as Riddle You This, which will give us up to 50% increased gun damage, and Contamination, which will give us status effect up to 100% increased chance, turning our 50% bleeds into a 100% chance to bleed on crit. Now this is very good as they don't consume our amp while they're doing this, so this lets us make one shots incredibly easy. They also provide some very nice utility during mobbing as they take the focus off enemies as you, and they can kill trash monsters. Even if their damage isn't high, their utility is amazing. We will put our first 3 points into Idle Hands. This provides up to 30% increased reload speed based on the fullness of our health. Due to our health always being full because of leech, we will always have the maximum bonus of 30% active. We will put our next 2 points into Full Inscription. This increases our health by 12% and gives us 12% increased melee damage. While the melee damage isn't that good, the maximum health is very nice for Bloodshot, increasing our one-shot potential and giving us a little bit of survivabilities. Now the next 5 points are really up to you. We can either put 5 points into Sanguine Fiends. While this doesn't really do much for us as we already have a way to restore health, this is very nice for keeping our minions alive during mobbing. However, the other option is Portents of Suffering. This will give us up to 35% increased status effect damage, and this is very nice for our bleeds, increasing that damage. I really can't say what's better because the mobbing's fine even without the spectres, but also we deal so much damage we don't need it. Personally, I like Portents of Suffering. It just makes the kills turn from 2 seconds to like 1.7 seconds. For our last point, we'll put it to Blood Sacrifice. This is also an optional point, and I'd only put this in there if you have Guns and Needles. There is another way of building this as well, where you put 5 points into Cursed Blade and 1 point into Extra Cursed. This is the best option for damage, but it's just not really playable and it's incredibly clunky. And due to the sheer amount of damage we do, we don't need extra damage, and it's just overkill for overkill's sake. As for Specialization, all we really care about is Contamination, which requires 10 points in Brute, 10 points in Sharpshooter, and 1 point in Killer. This doubles our status effect chance once we fully stack it, and our Spectres can stack it, meaning we can have it applied on every single boss encounter. This quite literally doubles our bleed damage, and that's why it's good. For the rest of the specializations, it really is more what you want. For example, I'm taking 10 points in Runner as well and 1 point in Daredevil just to pick up now with Caffeine. This is nice to keep your action skill up and is more quality of life as you don't need it. I'm also putting 10 more points into Brute just to get Riddle You This. Now this actually is incredibly nice, and I would recommend you get this, especially more than with now with Caffeine, as this gives you 50% stacking gun damage. Now what's good about this is your Spectres can stack this, so you can have this effect up at all times during bosses. Other good options are putting 10 to 20 points into Survivors to get either Bullets Are Scared of Me or the Best Defense for more defense and damage retrospectively. And another good option is compounding Elictions in the Killer tree. This causes enemies to take increased damage per status effect on them, and due to bleed stacking up to 20 times, this is a nice option for increasing our damage. As for gear for the build, this build is actually very lenient on the gear you can use, with 2 main exceptions. First of being the class mod. While you don't have to use a Teen Witch class mod, you are losing over half of your damage if you decide not to, and a lot of the interactions are based around this class mod, so it's sort of needed. What this does is whenever Vex has maximum health, her lifesteal will apply to shields, and if her shields are full, the life shield will grant over shield. Now what's really good about this is if we deal enough damage / have enough lifesteal, we can amp every single shot, doubling our damage of every single shot. And furthermore, this also has the effect of giving lifesteal on as a guaranteed passive, and it also encourages us to stack lifesteal. Now while lifesteal is really good, is for one skill, Blood is Power, which turns 300% of our lifesteal into bonus kinetic damage. Now this bonus kinetic damage is multiplicative and is a large source of our damage. As for the actual skills and passives of the class mod, they're not really important, as the skills it can roll are nice for damage, but even perfect skills won't really affect how much damage you're doing. And as for passive, you want kinetic damage being the best one. However, alternatives such as gun damage, splash damage and crit damage will work. But even then, you don't need a good passive, as the one I'm showing off right now isn't even the one I'm using to kill the bosses in one shot for the clips. So really, literally any Teen Witch will be fine. Your class mod can drop here in Cascadia Burns in the Grindstone of the Worthy region, just in the Arch of Radix, after completing the Vault Fragments. For shields, all we really care about is that they have amp. You can use a purple shield, a blue shield, or a legendary shield, but really all you are looking for is amp. As for better options, you want a legendary such as What's for Dinner being your best damage option, as the shock damage it provides is multiplicative. However, other good options are the Super Soldier or the Cinder Shelly. However, you do not need a perfect shield just to kill bosses in one hit. It just makes it slightly easier. What's for Dinner can be found in the Terminus range, after killing the Vault boss Origo in the Localays just here on your map. As for Repkits, ideally you want two, one for mobbing and one for bossing. However, if you only have one for bossing, that's fine, as the mobbing one is only there to keep your action skill up, which isn't needed. For mobbing, it's just very nice. For mobbing, we want an Accelerator Repkit, ideally a triple bypass. However, anyone with a low cooldown will work. And as for bossing, we want an Amp Repkit. Of course, the triple bypass will be best if you want consistency. If you want maximum damage, then an epic one within range and amp will be best. However, you don't need either, because you're going to one-shot the boss anyway, so you won't need the triple bypass, and just with amp, that's enough to one-shot the boss. For enhancements and ordnance, we'll keep them in the same segment, because personally, I've tested out a few heavy weapons, and I've not really found anything that's good. Well, not good, but just not better than our options with regular guns. Mainly due to the fact that this is a one-shot focused build, and heavy weapons feel very clunky to mob with, so what we're looking for is one that deals an immense amount of damage in one shot. However, there's not really any options that are better than just the regular guns, and as for mobbing, well, due to Jacob's ricochets, we've got that covered, so really all we care about is the firmware, so literally just pick one that has a good firmware. Next up, we're going enhancements. Now, enhancements are very flexible. We are a build that specializes, well, not specializes, but that excels with Jacob's weapon. However, we're not forced to use Jacob weapons, and this build can really use any gun in the game. Yeah, there are guns that is better with, however, it really is up to what you're using. But for our build in particular, the best option will be a Jacob's enhancement that gives critical hit chance. This is due to the space lasers from our primary boss killing weapon not having any crit chance, and this will give it 20% chance to crit, therefore increasing its damage, therefore being very good. For actual passives, the most important thing on any enhancement is gun damage. This is because it's multiplicative. The same goes for specific gun damage, so assault rifle damage, sniper rifle damage, etc. As for firmware, we have, well, two options. Firstly, 3 Deadeye and 2 High Caliber, or 3 High Caliber and 2 Deadeye. I like this option because it allows us to switch them out with one piece of gear. And each have their own benefits depending on your gun. For general use, 3 Deadeye is best because the critical hit damage comes in very handy, gaining 100% increased crit damage with weapons, and due to this build having up to 65% passive crit, this is incredibly good. Now for high caliber, this is more for specific guns. The 2 set bonus is very nice as the 10% gun damage is multiplicative, but for the 3 set bonus, this is where it becomes interesting, as the bullet piercing the enemies means that specific guns such as the complex root can hit twice. However, on guns that don't interact with the splash damage to hit twice, it's not really much use, so Deadeye will be better. As for weapons, I'm going to do something a bit differently from this video. Instead of showing you my 5 favourite weapons and just going over the same weapons I've shown in my previous videos, I'm going to show you 5 overlooked weapons. Well, 5 mostly overlooked weapons. Some will of course be weapons you've seen before, but 5 overlooked-ish weapons that are still incredibly good, just not talked about as much. However, before we get into that, I want to talk about 3 purple weapons. While these weapons have been talked about before, I cannot deny their effectiveness, and that is, first of all, you've got the beam tosser. This is a weapon that's very good for one-shotting. You've seen it loads. I don't like talking about these purple weapons because you can't target farm them. Another good option is the energy disc with the Jacob's license parts. Due to our flat crit chance, we can get the infinite damage from this through our spectres and our flat crit chance, so we don't need the crit knife. However, this also isn't target farmable. And the last one, of course, is the spread launcher. You can get one shots with all of these weapons. However, because you can't target farm them, I don't really want to spend too much time on them. For weapons, let's start off with Oscar Mike. No build can one-shot with every weapon, and this is our weapon of choice for these one-shots. The Oscar Mike is an incredible weapon due to its alternative fire being a literal death laser. First of all, it is incredibly fun. Watching your enemies evaporate by the laser is just euphoric. But secondly, let's actually talk about this weapon. It's got a very wide damage radius, coming all the way from 10 to 24k. However, you don't need an exceptionally good one and can settle on a 17k one. That's what the one I've been using. I don't really know like the minimum to get consistent one shots because it all depends on your gear. There's not much to say about the death beam. It does a lot of damage. It's fun to look at. Yeah, ideally you want a kinetic because we've got so much synergy with kinetics, and also we want a Jacob's one. You don't need a Jacob's one. In the clip time, I'm even using a Jacob's one. However, this gets the most damage from the enhancement, giving it another 20% crit chance. Now, what makes this exceptionally good on this build is, first of all, the immense amount of damage, and second of all, we can enhance it because usually it doesn't crit. Now, this build gives any weapon a 65% crit chance, giving it access to a damage multiplier it didn't have before. And well, the results you can see in the video are incredible. I love this weapon. You should use it. It's fun. The Oscar Mike can be obtained in the Carcadia Burns after completing the Fault Hunting quest from Gen 1 just here on your map. For our next weapon on the list, we have the TK's Wave. While any Jacob shotgun is good on the build, the TK Wave is probably the best due to its unique gimmick of its projectiles kind of flowing like a wave. I don't know how to describe it, but it's got a very unique projectile pattern which does make it hard to hit headshots, but we don't need to hit headshots, so this is very solid on our build, as it also comes with enhanced damage. Now you can really use any shotgun such as the Hellwalker or just the purple one, or even the Rainbow Vomit. However, this is the highest damage one, so I've chosen this. Unfortunately, I don't think this has got a dedicated drop source yet. However, you can of course there are many alternatives, as this really just represents Jacob's shotguns. Next up, we have the Noisy Cricket. This build excels with high damage weapon, and what's better than a high damage kinetic pistol? The Noisy Cricket is next on our list. What it does, it shoots, of course, a high damage projectile in a very large radius, which can one-shot many enemies with one shot. It fires 2 ammo per shot, but with increased mag size you can get this to 2 shots. We've got increased reload speed to deal with the reload, and if we're using the high caliber mod we can target multiple enemies per shot. While this bossing DPS isn't great, it's incredibly fun for mobbing and can destroy vile enemies. However, there is a gimmick to this. First you need to look at them, you need to point at them, and then you need to say the magic words. That being, keep my wife's name out of your mouth. Then they will die with the force of 1,000 slaps. The noisy cricket can be obtained in the Fade Fields just here in the Hungering Plain after completing the Ripper Drill site just here on your map. Our next gun is the Queen's Rest. This is another pistol, and the reason I like this is it's a high damage splash weapon. It has got a unique effect where it fires high speed rounds that have a 30% chance of spawning a homing sticking projectile. While this is nice due to the low fire rate, the 30% chance doesn't really feel like it happens often, and the high speed rounds help you hit enemies. This is really nice for mobbing and especially vile enemies because one shot with this can destroy all the crystals. And due to all our damage bonuses, this is another one-shot pistol. However, you can substitute this out with guns like the 7th Sense, but I do like this because of its splash radius being incredibly high at 135 centimeters. I will note one thing though, if you want this gun to feel exceptionally good, you really want a Jacobs part on this. However, it is fine without a Jacobs, but if you're not using a Jacobs part on this, I would use other guns such as the 7th Sense. This weapon drops from Callus. It's the major story boss in the Fallen Crown of the region of the Carcadia Burns, just here on your map in the moon called Throne. Last but certainly not least, we have the G.M.R. This gun is just really good. Like, a Gearbox employee woke up one day, decided they were going to be lazy, they got a purple weapon, they increased its stats, they slapped on an effect that when zoomed in increases the damage but less fire rate. But it doesn't matter because this gun just has really good stats and just one-shots enemies. It's got a really nice fire rate, it's good for mobbing, it's decent for bossing if you get a Jacobs part on it. It's just incredibly nice to play with. Yeah, I love this gun. It's simple but effective. This gun could be obtained in the Carcadia Burns in the Tonnage Peel region, just from drill a hole here on your map. I will also note here's Moxie's big encore this week, so if you want this weapon I would farm it now. This video has taken me a bit longer to put out, mainly because I've been trying to figure out the bossing, and now that I'm using the Oscar mic, it's made it just one of my favourite builds for bossing. Also, I've been too lazy to edit it, so that's probably not helped it. Yeah, I've actually had this build done for a couple days now, but hey ho. The next video is probably going to take even longer. Sorry. But I do have big plans, which you might see in the future if I actually get around to editing it.